Welcome back to Beacon in the Storm. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, I have a very special guest with us. I have TonniLea Larson. Hi there, TonniLea. How's it going?
Hi, Brad. Good. How are you?
It is a beautiful sunny day in Las Vegas. I am blessed. How about yourself?
Well, I'm not as blessed as you because it's probably not as warm, but the sun was shining and now it's cloudy again. But I am blessed no matter what it looks like outside.
I love hearing that. All right.
Yeah.
So I don't like doing a lot of frills. I'm not going to do any expositions. We're just going to get straight into it. All right. So, TonniLea, why don't you just begin by telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Absolutely. Well, I am TonniLea. I am host of the Healing Conference, host of TonniLea TV, and I also am a published author and a collaborator on several books. I do the 12-step recovery with women, and I'm also an empowerment coach. I love to do that because of the fact that I walked the walk. And so to be by a lady to support her through her trauma, betrayal, abuse, whatever it is that she has encountered, and grief, you can get all of the stuff you want to out of books, but for me, there's nothing like having someone that has walked the walk to be there and to support you.
Absolutely. Well, God bless you for all the incredible work you've done and all the amazing lives you've helped work with. So thank you. Now, the show is largely focused on men and men's issues and faith. And so people are probably wondering, what's a woman doing here? But I believe, so I'm going to preface this part. I believe that every man on this planet has come from a woman in one way or another, and we've all have mothers, and therefore you have a unique perspective that men don't necessarily have, which is why I am more than happy in having women on the show. So, TonniLea, my first question for you is, what does it mean to be a man?
To be a man, you don't have to be completely strong because I think a man also needs to be soft and caring, but definitely the leader. Someone that takes on that responsibility because they have chosen to do that, whether it's just your wife or it's because of your family too, but to be the leader. And I don't think we have that today, but yeah, definitely the leader, protector.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. When do you think it changed?
Cain and Abel.
You think all the way back then that men stopped being men way back then?
Sure. Well, we could even go to Adam, right? Because this is a thought real quick about Adam. We're always blaming Eve because if Eve had not tempted Adam, right? Well, that is probably true. But why did Adam not stand up to Eve?
Sure.
Why
Well,
did he not say, woman? No, we were given these rules and we were told that this is what's going to happen. So if you kind of look at today's life, the leaders need to be that way. You don't conform to whatever somebody is doing, but if you're the leader, you stand up and you say, no, this is the way that it needs to be because of this reason or because these rules or whatever. It doesn't matter whether that leader is a man or a woman, but to stand up, those boundaries are so effective.
absolutely. No, I do want to interject real quick. I actually don't blame Eve at all because at that point, she did not understand the difference between good and evil. She did not
Right.
know that the snake was trying to mislead her. Like, why would she assume anybody would lie to her? And so I don't
Sure.
blame any of them. They were very innocent back then, and it was just very unfortunate that the enemy was there at that time. So,
I can relate to that. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
so now, the purpose of my show is to help lead men to the Lord because when I learned that the suicide rate, or at least the amount of suicides that are men out of the suicide rate is 80%. So 80% of all suicides in the United States are men. It's every 13.7 minutes a man kills himself here in the States. I knew that the Lord was the path. If we could help lead men to the Lord, maybe, just maybe somebody's life would be saved. And so my next question is, why is faith so important? Before we get to Jesus, why do we have to have this level of faith and belief in anything, in your opinion?
Because it gives us hope. If we have faith in something, whether it's we have faith in Christ, we have faith in the fact of the earth or nature or whatever it is, right? Or other people or universe or whatever it is, it gives us hope. We have to have that hope. I can tell you, not to the extent of, trying. I was going to try to commit suicide. I did not get to the point where I was able to put the stuff in my mouth because my mother walked in the back door. But when you are at a point where there is no hope, there is no light at the end of that tunnel, it is completely dark. Completely dark, no matter who you scream out to.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
So, yeah, but we've got to have that, right? Because if we don't see any light, what's the point of going on?
Absolutely. I don't actually normally tell anybody this. I don't really share this, but when I was 14 years old, I considered committing suicide as well. I remember being in the shower. There was a razor there, thinking nobody cared about me, and I had no real close friends. Like my family didn't seem to care, and it was just. And the thing that saved me was I felt, how would they feel if I was gone? If I did this here, how would they feel? And I didn't want to put that pain on them. And so thankfully that saved me at that time because I had not yet found the Lord. And, it took me a couple more years to get there. Actually, it was about 2 years later that I came to know the Lord. And so,
well, I kept crying out, God, where are you? Because I know he's real. I know he's real, but I felt so alone. I felt like he had deserted me. And I knew that that was not true because he never does that. But I have never, ever had such a feeling of emptiness, loneliness, darkness. Yeah, and I had called the ex-husband because that's the reason that I was going through all of that. And I said, please just make sure you take care of our granddaughter because we had raised her. And I was done. I didn't want any more pain. I did not want any more pain.
well,
So I can understand that. Well, yeah, and I truly believe that no matter what, God allowed me to get to that point so that I could understand a little bit more of what these poor people go through, because I think it's like seems like somebody said every 22 seconds, and that I'm not sure that that's exact or not, but we lose a soldier.
It's every 22. It's 22 a day.
22, there we go, 22 a day.
22 a day.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
It's awful. Yeah.
It's horrible. Yeah.
Right. Now, TonniLea. TonniLea, my next question is, how can we help men better come to know the Lord Jesus Christ?
Well, I think that we need an awful lot more godly men out there, but if there isn't the godly men, so then how is a woman going to show the men love, right? By building them up.
Wonderful.
Empowering them, just like I would a woman, right? They're worth it. They are so worthy. And even if you've done the worst sin ever, God still loves you.
Yeah.
Does not love the sin whatsoever. But God never, ever stops loving a person until that person says, God, I don't believe in you. I don't, whatever turns on him. But he loves them. He has hope for them until the very, very end, right?
Yeah.
And so, the women that I speak to, it's because I try to show them how priceless they are, how valuable they are, and try to encourage them to look themselves in the mirror and keep saying that all the time. And of course, you got to get to a point where you're able to forgive yourself or to forgive others or to acknowledge that it wasn't your fault, that you had no responsibility in someone's actions whatsoever, because all we can do is be responsible for our own actions and reactions to show the love of God through ourselves.
That's right.
Let the light shine.
Right. Well, I love your answer because God didn't just make man. He made man and woman. He made us a pair. He made us a team, and we have to look out for each other. And there's a lot of discussion out there about how men aren't necessarily looking out for other men. And I don't think that's necessarily true. It's more men have a hard time reaching out to other men. Because from my experience in doing this show and talking to people from all over the world, everybody's willing to help. It's just you have to reach your hand up first for someone to reach down to help you up.
That's right.
And,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's ego, is it pride, is it social stigma that's keeping men from asking for help? Because, I'll admit my number one confidant, my best friend in the world is my wife. And I have a couple of best friends. One's in Pennsylvania, one's in California. I call them once a month, every other month. I don't necessarily have that strong male connection that everybody says men need. But here I love your answer because, my best friend is my wife. And I need to be able to rely on her and she needs to be able to rely on me. And we need to be able to move forward together as a pair, as God made us.
Right. And isn't that what God said? Because he made man. And then he was like, oh man, Adam, I know you need a companion.
Yes.
Because why did he make Adam? Because he needed a companion,
Yeah.
right? And he needed to be glorified. And so if God knew that, why did he make woman then if we were not supposed to support each other and to encourage each other? And, it definitely, I've never had a relationship like that, sadly. Kind of like, you boost each other and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not choose the right men to have that.
It's
And to
never
see
too late.
couples that do
It
that.
really isn't.
No, it's not. No, God's always possible. Yeah, right. But to see others that do that and they're their best friends, like my aunt and uncle, oh my gosh, they've probably been married, I don't know, close to 50 years or something like that. They still act like they just met and fell in love. I have never seen anything like it. Never. And it's something that I cherish because of the fact that they are willing to support each other and then, lift each other up, not only, by talking about each other, but also in prayer and that type of stuff like that. So but isn't that something that we should be doing with other women, other men, our friends? All of that is the encouragement because we all need that.
It's funny you bring this up. When I decided to create this show, I looked at kind of the landscape of people talking to men about men's issues, and it was always about the quick hookup. It's about the ghosting them and quick, just go out, get it done, and then move on to the next thing. And that's not right. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to have these long-term, committed, loving relationships. And I could not find any good content out there that talking to men about that and why this is important. So that's why I decided to start the show. Now, I do want to keep moving on to my next question here. Say someone has fallen out of the faith. Maybe they were in the faith, they were raised in the faith, they understand Jesus as Lord and Savior, but they haven't necessarily been pursuing him the way they could be, or maybe they've kind of had doubts. Do you have any advice or recommendations to somebody out there to help get them back into the faith and find Jesus once again?
Test him. Because I wandered away several years myself, and then I just started getting back close to him when I found out that I had this brain tumor. That took me to moments of just like, okay, Lord, what are you doing? And to seek him. And that just made my heart's desire to know more about him and to seek him more. But to get to that point, sometimes it does take something really, really bad to bring somebody in. I think as believers, the best thing we can do is show everyone his love.
Yes.
It's not easy because I'm going to have a bad day. I'm only human. But I sure love it when the peace and the joy is in me and goes through me, and people can see that because they look at you weird because they're like, why are you smiling so much? And I love it when people ask me because I'm going to tell them, well, it's the joy of the Lord. But that doesn't mean that we're always going to be smiling. It's a choice, right? Yeah. But his peace is continually with us. But test the Lord. Ask him, God, if you're really real, make yourself known to me. Show me something. And it's everybody's is a little bit different. And then, you're speaking of men. Men, I think, have the hardest time probably doing that because most all of them are probably taught to be manly, not to ask for help, that you need to do it all yourself and all of that. No. For me, without God, I can't do one thing, because if I do it, I mess it up and it does not turn out anything like what God would do. So, yeah.
I like what you just said there, that men are taught not to ask for help, but men are also taught to get the job done no matter what, which may mean asking for help. Now, I believe that's an overriding consideration, that if you want to get that done, you have to learn to accept that you need help from time to time. You can't do everything by yourself. And honestly, when it comes down to it, we can't do anything without the Lord.
No.
I've tried.
Well, and
it didn't work.
And I love what you say too, because back in the olden days, we used to have maps because we didn't have phones and all of that type of stuff. And I can remember, especially my grandparents, well, you never ask for help. Why don't you stop and, if they didn't have a map or whatever. And it's very true. Men would not ask for help. My grandpa wouldn't, my dad wouldn't, because they were determined that they knew exactly where they were going. And I seen that change within my brother. He would stop and ask for help. So, and that's the thing is, we just have to get to that point. But, as long as a woman is there and she's bickering on him, or she's pointing at him or belittling him or whatever, why in the world would he? So we have to play a part in that just as well as the men for the women.
An author that I turn to all the time, I won't mention his name here, but he said that a man's spouse will either make him or break him.
It's true.
It's absolutely true.
Goes the other way just as well.
Yes, it does.
It does. Mm-hmm. So when God created Adam and he created Eve, he brought them together, right?
Mm-hmm.
He wanted them to be together. He didn't want them to be like this or like this or like this, but he brought it together. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made Eve out of his rib, right?
Yeah, no, they came from the same thing in the first place.
Exactly.
Of the same substance, yes.
Yep.
All right. Now, TonniLea, I'd like to ask you, what are you doing to help promote the word out in the world?
Well, I think my biggest thing is this. Right?
Yep.
What better way to see God than through me? Like I said, I'm human and I'm going to mess up and I have bad days and all of that. But I love seeing people that just glow because you just see it. And I love that. And they don't have to say one word to me. I was brought up, actions speak louder than words. And it's very, very true. Yeah. They do, because you can tell me one thing, but if you go out and your actions are totally different, I'm going to call you a liar. So for me, that's the biggest thing. The other thing is my ministry, just being a servant, because I'm there for those women that are broken, that have been through so much. I'll do it for men too. I mean, the process is no different for a man or a woman, because I am in this position because I was married to a sex addict. Women can become sex addicts as well. Mm-hmm. So I will work with either man or woman. And just getting the message out there that God does love them, no matter what they've done. It's the unconditional love. And I have learned that unconditional love because that is exactly how I love my children and grandchildren. And I have been hurt by them many, many times. But my love for them will never, ever change, ever.
And isn't life just easier having that unconditional love?
Absolutely. Yes, it is. No matter who it is.
Yeah, when you don't have to go around worrying about judging people or complaining about stuff, and you just accept people for who they are,
that's right.
Magic happens.
It does. I agree.
All right.
Totally.
TonniLea, this has been a fantastic interview. Thank you so much. How can people reach out to you if they would like to?
Well, thank you, Brad. And I've enjoyed this because I've never done one where we discussed men before. So this is pretty awesome. It's TonniLea, TonniLea.com, TonniLeaTV@gmail.com, TonniLea.com, TonniLea. all over social media, TikTok. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate your taking the time with us today. Thank you so much for your insights and your advice. God bless you for everything that you're doing.
Well, Brad, thank you for what you're doing, because I can remember Promise Keepers a long, long time ago. And I think Bill has since passed away, but it was so huge for men, and I think sometimes the men get left behind, they get lost and we forget about them, but they're essential to today, so essential to today.
Yes.
So thank you for all that you are doing, and God bless you and your work.
Well, thank you very much. And for everybody else, we're going to sign off here. Keep looking for the light in the tempest. God will show you the way.